Welcome to Planet People, a podcast that aims to inspire curiosity and cultivate a deeper connection with the natural world. I'm Natalie Jane, a conservation biologist, eco-communicator, and the host of this podcast series. And I am thrilled to be sharing stories with you that highlight the beauty and importance of protecting our planet's wildlife. Hello, wonderful listeners, and welcome back to episode 3 of Planet People of the Coastal Conservation Series. Today, I am so excited to be showcasing my good friend and colleague, Randy Thomas, shark expert and herpetologist. We are super stoked to have you on today. Randy is so knowledgeable in all things herpetology and marine biology. He has been on Shark Week's Discovery Show, Shark Academy, and that is available on YouTube and Discovery Plus.
It might be on HBO Max too, so we'll see.
Welcome to the show, Randy. We're stoked to have you.
Thanks for having me. It is a pleasure. I'm so happy that we are able to finally do it, and I'm excited to get it going. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for being here and for all you do to fight extinction with sharks and herps.
Oh, thanks, Nat.
So I first wanted to dive in and talk about what really got you into conservation. Let's talk about your inner child, Randy. What inspired you in your youth to want to fight extinction and be a steward of the planet?
Man, so growing up in Detroit, I didn't have the most wilderness, I guess, growing up. But I feel like my first kind of step into nature was books and television. So my mom, she's a teacher, and back then we used to have like the Scholastic Book Factory out in Canton, Michigan. So I think it was on like every Saturday she used to go out and get like a box full of books. And there's a particular Saturday, probably like 3, honestly. Like I remember pictures where I was like super young, and she had got a box full of books, and one of the books said sharks just on it, and it was about as big as me. And she told me later in life that it was actually intended for my brother, but that's like the first one that I grabbed. So that's where my infatuation began. It was reading those books and always carrying around with me. It was this like magic school bus, little satchel, if you will, that had like a big whale on it. And that's where I used to put my books in. So I always used to carry them around. I always had to have them with me. And I used to name my family members after each shark to kind of help me not only remember the shark but different characteristics. So like for my grandmother, she had salt and pepper wavy afro hair, and it reminded me of like the frillies of the wobbegong shark, which is a type of carpet shark that is camouflaged to the ocean. And then like my brother, his favorite color was blue, so he was the blue shark. And then my mom was like the nurse shark, because she was just caring. And then my dad was like the great white. So like
wow.
That's how I used to kind of like teach myself and just kind of have a little bit of an analogy kind of relationship with it. And then of course growing up watching Animal Planet, Nat Geo, like my 3 channels was Animal Planet, Nat Geo, and ESPN.
Of course.
Like period.
Nat Geo was on 24/7 in my household.
Exactly. So growing up, like probably when I was about 6 or 7, that's when I started getting pets, like abstract pets. My first pet at like 5 though was a fire-bellied toad. So
that
like,
explains so much about you.
Yeah.
This is the inner child that I wanted to come out today, because you are the ultimate herper. And for those listening, a herper is someone who looks for different reptiles like snakes and toads and things like that. And there's no doubt that is so natural to you, Randy.
Yeah. It was like a toad, then like a goldfish. And then I had a dog, and then I think my next one was like an electric blue crayfish. So I always had just like animals around me, even if I hadn't had like that mountain range to go to or that ocean to go to. I always just sought it out and wherever I could, and loved being outside. We used to stay outside until we were just called to come in the house for dinner. And then just as I got older and having those pets around me, they got a little bit more exotic. So I started getting things like bala shark, and then I had some freshwater stingray, and then I had got my first saltwater tank, and it just kept moving up like that. And then once I got to just of age in college and a little bit of high school, I just kind of jumped off the porch and just went all in. And then started doing like my internships and kind of getting to where I am today. So, but that's how I started though. Just a lot of infatuation with animals and readings and books, and then on TV until I was able to make it a reality.
I love that story. That's very inspiring.
Thank you.
And I think it's so valuable that you could dive into that scholastic aspect of understanding biology from a different perspective, because maybe you didn't always have that access to that wilderness like you were saying. So that's super important. And that's great for our listeners to know too, that you don't need to have access to the ocean to become fascinated with sharks and marine biology in general.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think you gave a great segue into my next question too. Really kind of going into your next chapter of life and how, your childhood influenced what you did in high school and in college. What did that look like for you, and what degree did you get to kind of help you get into the shark space?
Yeah.
And what would you suggest to our readers, or excuse me, our listeners, for those who would want to get into marine biology? What did that path look like for you, and how has it shaped what you're doing today?
So very unorthodox, and I want everybody listening out there to know that it's not just one path, like it's plural with an S, and that it is okay to have like a fork in the road and pick a side, because guess what? You can always come back to that fork, and you may have other deviants and branches along the way. They may meander just as a river would, and that's how like that journey to your passions, your goals, that's how it really is. So
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no doubt, because I feel like a lot of people, especially in our day and age, they feel like they have to have it a certain way, and God, that's just not it.
A defined path, and that certainly is very difficult to do in the science space, because there's just so many directions that you can go in.
Exactly, and so started off with I actually, like, coming out of high school, I was going to go into physical therapy and kinesiology at first, because I was an athlete. I played 3 sports. I was getting recruited for football and track and a little bit of basketball, but I was like, I'm going to D1. So I just went to those places. But when I was getting there, I had 3 options. It was either like the physical therapy or kinesiology route, something to do with animals, or one of my like passions I don't really talk about a lot is landscape architecture. Like, I love the idea.
I did not know this.
Yeah. It's a I never really pulled it out the bag.
You didn't. You're a man of many hats.
Yeah, that's what they say. But yeah, for sure, I wanted to do landscape architecture so I can build and reconstruct zoo habitats for like zoo exhibits, because I always felt like some exhibits just wasn't as abundant as they needed to be.
I agree.
Whether that had been resources or whatever, but just high school me was like, I think that they deserve a little bit of a reconstruction, a little bit more of a naturalistic approach to it, and just kind of make it cool for me. So that's what I was going to go into. But the schools in which I was getting recruited to, and the schools in which I was interested in, not everybody had that. One of the universities, they had landscape architecture, but just the vibe at the campus just wasn't it. Especially coming from a city like Detroit and then going to like the middle of nowhere, it was like, I don't know. I needed a bit more of a gradual adjustment. So I ended up going to the University of Toledo, where upon starting, I was undecided, because they had a biology program, but then they also had like a pre-vet program. And I went biology first, and then I went biomedical ecology with a focus in pre-vet. So that's a first switch. Second switch, because it was undecided. Then I chose, and then I went to biomedical pre-vet, and I did that for about 2 years. And at first it was cool because, I'm like, okay, I get to do something with animals, but I found myself not being able to do anything with animals at the time, because a lot of it was clinical, a lot of it was in the lab. I had done different research projects on, it was turtles, reptiles, and amphibian and the algal blooms that happen within the Great Lakes and how they were affected via like blood cells. So I was like in the lab doing extractions over the summer, doing field research, and it was okay, but it just wasn't really getting me. You know what I mean? It wasn't really giving that spark. And I also will mention that upon going to Toledo, it was a Toledo Zoo membership, internship. So I made it a point to get that. And that way it also, since I didn't have landscape architecture, I could still be around the zoo life, right? And then I
find that balance.
You find that balance. And then I realized that at the time, like, the zoo wasn't really for me.
That's
You know what I
interesting
mean?
you say that. I also started out wanting to work for the zoo, and I've heard several other conservation biologists say, you know, zoology was the route that I wanted to take.
Yeah.
But then you kind of come to terms with, maybe I want to have a bigger impact outside of an institution.
Yeah, and it's just like beautiful, beautiful place. But it was just certain things. It's just like they hadn't aligned, and it was a good experience to have. And that's another little snippet I want to tell folks out there. Like, it is okay to go try different things. Like,
Thank you.
Go try different things. Don't be like, oh my God, this is going to be the exact thing, the exact step. No, like, go try it. You may hate it. You might love it. Who knows? Go do it though.
Go do it.
And
just start.
It was an internship. I didn't get paid. Go do things for free. Like,
go do things for free.
Like, go do things
if you have time.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a young high school, college kid, like, everyone wants to get paid so quick, but then they don't have the development. And now they don't know that journey, that process, so they're not even going to appreciate it when they get it. So it's like, take internships, take volunteerships, opportunities to get you in the room, because I was able to make connections, right? And you
have to network.
Have to. So bringing it back to me getting to where I was, I ended up switching my major again, junior year, to environmental science. I took an ecology course with a professor who just really just opened up my mind to the natural world in a different space, because prior to, just with me being like one of the only black kids in the environmental sciences and the natural science and mathematics department, especially pursuing what I was pursuing, it was a bit of a rarity. And I remember having professors telling me like, I don't know, man, it's gonna get hard. You might as well just like change your major. Like, now, I mean, you're an athletic guy.
What was your response to that, internally and externally? Like, how did you process that and move forward with what you wanted to do? Because you knew in your heart that you are doing it.
Yeah, it was fire to fuel. And I remember one of the it was like a botany class, and he said it, and I'm like, bet, you just watch. He was like, what? And I walked out. I just said like, bet, you just watch, because I don't know, professors don't really expect slang. I was just like, bet, like, you just watch. Like, what? And I remember I dropped his class and got another professor.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
I knew we were friends for a reason.
Yeah,
we carry
it was
that
just
same
like,
energy. We're not going to let people tell us we can't do something.
Yeah, because I'm gonna go
because
where
it's too hard.
Exactly, and I'm gonna go where it's favored. Like, he already had it out for me off rip, so I just went to transfer like classes. I got like an A in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yeah.
No surprise there.
But I went to environmental sciences, and I started doing work in the rivers and the fisheries, and then I started doing more work with it was a 10-year study for like an oil spill that they had, and I basically did like the effects over time. It was just like an ongoing study, and that just put me in that space of like, man, field work. Like, I love field work. So
cool.
Making it a little bit shorter, basically after I did that, so no, I was working with reptiles and amphibians.
Okay.
Right? I went overseas to do some work as like a camp counselor, and I went to Japan.
That's right.
That was the first time.
How old were you when you did that? I remember you
19,
telling me about this.
The first time was 19 going on 20, and then the second time was 20 going on 21.
I did not know you went twice.
Yep, I went twice. The first place I went to was Yokosuka, Japan, and then the second place I went to was Okinawa. So both, I was basically teaching swim lessons to the military installations. And while I was there, they had the ocean. So I was able to go on my first scuba dive. I was able to go on just snorkeling in general.
Did you get your open water there?
I had got my open water certified in Ohio, in a quarry.
Cool.
In
nice.
A quarry, super
I also
cold.
Got my open water in a quarry in North Carolina.
Sick. See, cold.
Cold. Way too cold.
Yeah, too cold. But did that, and then I had a GoPro, and I was taking pictures of everything. And then this was like right before COVID, because like I graduated in 2019, and I got an internship or a position. I got paid like what, $300 a month, maybe, down in Florida, in the Florida Keys, working as a marine science instructor.
Cool.
I told them all. Remember, I started off, I never saw oceans, nothing, right? Up until this point, never in college, anything. And it was just my passions.
Wait, pause for a second.
Yeah.
You had never been to the ocean until you were in college.
Exactly. I never been to the ocean until I was in college.
Let's just take that in for a second.
Okay.
Because that is, for your passion that you have now for shark biology and not having had seen the ocean until you were an adult, speaks volumes to your passion and character and love for the ocean. And I know that you're an avid diver, and I love when you come to visit in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're just always getting after it, and I love that about you.
Appreciate that.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm stoked. I didn't know that you had never been to the ocean until you were an adult.
First time was Lakai, Haiti. That was my freshman year, but like at the time I wasn't the strongest swimmer yet. So like I got in, but I didn't see anything. I didn't go in the water. It was just like, yeah, I'm in the ocean. Woo. But yeah, that was the first time. And then by the time I got to Japan though, and I was teaching swim lessons, so that's a whole nother story. But like I was confident enough. And then after doing my training back in college in Ohio, I just took it to the next step and did it. But how it kind of transferred over was I was so passionate and I was self-taught about it. So like
self-taught from a young age, given that you are very much a scholastic child reading books about shark biology. Literally,
it was like that was my downtime. If I wasn't in sports, it was like that. And when I was in the interview, like I was telling them everything that they were trying to, tell me and things that I was going to be teaching. So it just made sense that with me going down there. And then that's what kind of kick-started my marine science journey.
Great story. Yeah. A very long and windy road to get to this point.
Exactly.
But that's awesome because you tried different things. You tried pre-vet, zoology, landscape architecture for zoology. And that really speaks to all of these kind of confusing pathways that we can take as conservationists. And we definitely have parallel paths. I was into pre-vet as well, working in a raptor hospital. I wanted to work for the San Diego Zoo, given more in their field research center. But this is what I love about interviewing my colleagues and friends, is hearing how our stories are parallel to one another. And that it's such a difficult field and career to navigate, but it's so cool that you tried everything and that you're in this place now where you've just become so fascinated. And I feel like your inner child is probably just so happy with you.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I know I'm an adult, but everybody be so quick to grow up. I mean, my life is just like that. I'm very blessed and fortunate for that to be like I get to say that like my job doesn't feel like one.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like I'm literally living all the things that I dreamt about as a kid. And that's what kind of keeps me grounded. It's just knowing like that little Randy back in the day who like looking at it in the book is now bringing it full circle. You know what I'm saying? Like going to Florida, working in the Bahamas, and coming out here to California, like doing all of those things that I like could only watch behind a TV screen, and now I'm doing it myself. It's so humbling. So, and I'm very grateful for it.
Hearing you say that it's a dream come true is just awesome. Like I don't even know what to say because I'm so happy for you, and hearing your story just makes me so happy.
Appreciate that.
And you inspire me, and I'm sure everyone listening is just as inspired.
Don't get me teary-eyed.
I know. This is great. I'm having such a fun time talking with you. I'm learning more and more about you, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, because I just get to interview my friends and learn more about you and share your story. And it's fun.
It's a blast to be here. I'm glad we got a chance to make it happen.
Me too. So you graduated in 2019.
Yeah.
And your degree was in environmental science. Okay, and your minor?
Counseling. I had a minor in counseling. Once I was doing like the swim lessons.
That makes so much sense too.
Yeah.
You're always giving me good advice. I'm like,
Yeah. So like when I did like the military things, I got credits. So it's like a counseling minor. So I just took it.
Sure. So you graduated in 2019. You went to Japan, and then you moved to California, or you were in Florida with the internship?
Yeah. So I did a little bit so I went to Japan twice, and then I went to Bahrain in the Middle East doing similar stuff.
That's right.
Just a little bit different. And then it was during that time, because I think that was fall of 2019, so right before 2020, and I started in Florida January of 2020.
Okay, and were you at the Bimini Shark Lab then?
No, so I hadn't did the Bimini Shark Lab until later 2020 and then 2021. So I was,
touch on your Bimini Shark Lab experience. I'm sure everyone listening would love to hear about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I first got in cahoots with the Shark Lab out in Bimini, Bahamas, when I did a TV show called Shark Academy. It's on Discovery Plus. It was like their first series, and basically it was like 6 weeks with was it 8 of us? Yeah, 8 contestants, and the goal was to go through these different challenges, being in the shark realm, shark science, and just being immersed in the world of sharks. And each week got like progressively harder. I'm not going to spoil anything, because if people want to watch it, they can go watch it.
Yeah, we'll definitely plug that show later. And just a side note, I feel like you're being humble about this, but Randy was on Shark Week, and the show aired on Shark Week, and it's super epic. And everyone listening should 100% watch it. Yeah,
go watch it. It's a good it's what, six or seven? I think it's like 6 episodes. It's a good watch. It is enjoyable. And it was very fun to do. So we did it at the Shark Lab, and we were going back and forth from like I was on like a liveaboard going back to the lab and learning different history about the Shark Lab, and how the founder was like a leading renowned shark scientist, Dr. Gruber, and he produced a lot of what we know about sharks today. And just learning about the history, the culture there, and how they are really so tapped in with the sharks in that area. And it's kind of like one of the shark capitals of the world, honestly. Like a lot of people flock there, whether it's for research purposes or ecotourism.
In the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas, yes.
I don't think we mentioned that Bimini is in the Bahamas, for those that may not know where Bimini is,
so,
but it is in the Bahamas.
Bimini is the closest segment of the Bahamas to the United States. I believe it's like it's a 2-hour boat ride from Miami, and like a 30-minute flight from Miami, and it has the Caribbean on the east, and then the Gulf on the west. So you have a lot of sharks that come there, over like 12 species. One of the most notorious and notable being the great hammerhead, which is critically endangered, and also the tiger shark. And of course they have bull sharks, lemon sharks, which is kind of like the highlight and like the highlight species of the Shark Lab itself. Because
lemon sharks?
Yeah, lemon sharks, because that's what a lot of the research had been done on, just because of how unique they are.
What makes them so unique?
So they are one of the few sharks that can sleep, quote unquote. So they do a process called buccal pumping, where they are kind of like moving water over their cheeks, so it kind of looks like they're huffing and like puffing, but they're allowing themselves to just be at rest. And another shark that can do that is like the nurse shark, which tons of them are out around Bimini as well. And it was just a lot of studies done on their electromagnetivity. So they have these pores up on their mouths and nose area that allows them to sense the environment around them. So there's a lot of studies done on that, and their migrations that happen, and they have a breeding ground around there as well, and they always return. So they at the lab, they have like a family tree of lemon sharks, so they can tag a lemon shark that they did 20 years ago and also get their offspring and connect it to. So a lot of beautiful stuff that they do.
Fascinating.
Out in Bimini. So that's how I got connected with them. We did the show there, and then post show I was just so in love with them. It was just such a family dynamic that I was fortunate enough to be able to go back and intern with them. So I interned the following like fall in 2021, and I was able to do different workups. On a workup is basically like giving a shark a physical. So
cool.
Yeah, so we'll do like measurements similar to like what we do in our professions now, like when we work with tortoises, but it's just on a larger scale, obviously.
Totally.
Where we do measurements, we do blood samples. If it's a female, we do ultrasounds to see if they're pregnant, which is It's a beautiful experience, honestly, to see like little shark pups in
Can't say I've ever seen that before, but maybe one day you can show me.
Yeah, for sure. No,
I
we
feel
gotta
like now I have to
out.
go to Bimini with you.
Yeah.
I'm so like enthralled by all
indeed.
the different
Yes,
experiences and species you saw. It sounds really
No,
fascinating.
it is literally it's a highlight of my life, honestly, and that's why I continuously go back, because that's family.
Of course.
So but yeah, it's pretty much like it's like giving a shark a physical, and we use that data for a variety of different things, whether that be population dynamics, whether that be just like reef surveying and etc. So it's so much work that we can do there, but that's kind of how I got like started with the lab.
So it sounds like your experience in Bimini was so eye-opening in a lot of different ways. Not only were you on Shark Week, but you went back for an internship with them, and it feels like this research center was really family for you, and you got to learn so much about all of these amazing shark species and the threats they face from human encroachment and extinction. And I really wanted to follow up and tie back into our mission here at Planet People, which is obviously to share the stewardship stories of people like you fighting extinction and doing the boots on the ground work to make a difference for these endangered species that you mentioned. So how is the research you're doing protecting these species for future generations to be able to enjoy them?
So knowledge is power. You know what I mean? A lot of it is education. It's a lot of outreach. It's a lot of education-based things, because I feel like a lot of us have a misconception and misinterpretation, and it's a lot of fear-based, because Jaws kind of ruined it for us back then. Like, you see Jaws and it's like, oh my God, sharks in the water, shark infested waters, and it's like, no, that's their home. Like, that's where they live, right? So with my time being at the lab and just being around these keystone species, and for those who don't know what a keystone species is, it's an organism in an ecosystem that is pivotal. It is imperative for them to be there, because without them it kind of crumbles, just as a keystone would in an arch. So species like the great hammerhead, right?
You mentioned they're critically endangered.
They're critically endangered.
What makes them critically endangered?
Due to fishing, a lot of shark fishing on them, because they have a large dorsal fin. That's the fin that is on their backside. Have a large dorsal fin. The shark fin soup delicacy is like another one, but a lot of it is sports fishing.
Fishing?
It's a lot of discrepancy, especially in the waters of Florida, because the ocean is so hard to regulate because it's so huge, right? It's so hard to put a boundary there. So many miles to cover. So technically, if they cross a certain line, because in the Bahamas they're protected, when they cross a certain line, it's not Bahamas anymore. So a lot of people, it's unfortunate, they go out and they'll fish these waters, catch them, because it's like sharks are fish, right? So it's like a loophole a little bit of when they fish, and a lot of people, it's not monitored, so they can go out, fish it, because it's like, oh, I caught a shark, and it's like this big like pride thing, and it's like a trophy, but in reality they're taking away, kind of like the security guards of the ocean. Like, they need to regulate, you know what I'm saying? And
I like that analogy.
Yeah, they need to regulate. So that's just one of like the many, and I can get into like ghost fishing. So a lot of times when people leave their fishing gear out, and have like derelict fishing gear that's just kind of floating out, that can catch them up as well. And with hammerheads, they have to keep swimming. So a shark that is standstill, outside of the ones that
the lemon shark,
or like just like the carpet shark family, lemon sharks aren't the carpet sharks, but like nurse sharks, wobbegongs, etc., that can be still. Like, majority of sharks have to keep swimming. So a shark that can't swim is a drowning shark, and a drowning shark is a dead shark. So that's one of the many challenges that they do face with it, and just also just pollution, climate change, habitat, deep sea trawling and taking away the reef, and now it's like a top down effect of like, okay, all of these things are happening, cascading, and they have consequences. But going back into what they kind of do to help with the extinction is bringing that awareness and putting them in a different light, because a lot of them look at them like, oh my gosh, this 15, 16, 17 foot shark, oh my God, it's out to eat me. But they're so shy. Like after swimming with them, photographing them, tagging them, being around them, being in their presence, they have so much positive energy. Like you'll never really know what kind of like a calmness and a sense of humility is until you look a shark in the eyes. Like, and I remember it was a moment for me in which I was we were just doing just like a regular routine reef survey, and there's a spot that they come through a certain time of the year, and we just take photo analysis of them. So we kind of, because they're different characteristics and different like morphological characteristics and markings that these individual sharks have, that we kind of can put a name to them, like, oh, Gaia, she's back, or Zeus, he's back, right? And taking these photos of them to basically something called laser photo analysis, where we have like a camera and it's like lasers about 6 inches apart, and this is a way to passively measure a shark and get different data traits about them. So we were doing one of those routine surveys, and
Cool.
just being able to, I was free diving down there because that's just a more of a passive and intimate approach without scaring them away, because you know the scuba on bubbles and everything. So being able to be down there and just be one with them and really just understand how they move, their behavior. I don't fear them, I respect them. Right? So a lot of the work that we do and the pictures you may see if you go onto the page is really showcasing to people out in the world who have this idea of like, oh my gosh, this is such a absurd and crazy thing. Like, oh my, you can do this in a safe way, but you have to educate yourself. You have to be open-minded. You have to go out and seek the knowledge as well.
And the respect.
And you have to respect them. You have to respect them because humans are so entitled. You know, we just think we own everything, and it's like it's a natural order here. You know what I'm saying? And in that space, in that water, we're not top dog. No, like there's many other things. We are foreigners in that aspect. We are outsiders in that aspect. That's like if somebody came over to your house and then start rambling through your kitchen. Like, you're going to feel some type of way. You know what I mean? And that's just us, like, doing, whether that be, like, different water activities, boating. I don't know. It's just a sense of, like, entitlement. It's not, like, a respecting. That's why I'm so adamant, like, when people are going out, like, when I scuba or free dive or any type of water activity, even surfing. You know what I mean? Like, respect the ocean. Like, respect the reef. Respect the space. Don't have your fins hitting up on coral. Don't be getting all tangled up and pulling out the kelp. Don't be littering when you're on the boat. You know what I'm saying? We can enjoy these things, but we have to have a respect towards it. And I think with the education, with the respect, with the ability and willingness to understand, that's how we can start and push the needle to get to the point of recovery, pretty much. So
that was a great answer, and packed with a lot of really important points that are also crucial to our mission here, especially the education and awareness piece.
Yeah.
And knowledge is power. I like that you started out with knowledge is power, because with the right tools and knowledge, we can use that to educate people about coexistence and how to protect species, how to protect shark species. And in doing that, it inspires people to take action, right? Which is what we want. We want people to be involved with protecting the environment and advocating for species that may be overlooked or are maybe people are afraid of, as most people are afraid of sharks. It's a fear-based emotion that scares us away from understanding the humility that you saw so deeply in their eyes when you were freediving with them. That's that in itself is a beautiful story to showcase how incredible sharks are and how important they are as the top dog or the security guard for the rest of the food chain, right? I thought that was cool. that you mentioned, they're kind of like the security guard of the ocean, right?
Yeah. I think that's important for people to realize too, that like the ocean is just like it's another place. Like I feel like people think of it as such a foreign land, and like this just outside of them. But a lot of things kind of operate how it is terrestrially, like on land. Like how we have roads and highways. I mean, they have canyons and valleys under there too. How we have rainforests, those are kelp forests. How we have beautiful gardens, those are coral reefs and our corals. And it's just like a lot of the like life rules apply. You know what I mean? That's why it's like you got to go in there with respect, just as you would on here when you standing on land. Like you got to go in the water with respect, and everything has an order to it. And when you disrupt it, that's when things get problematic. So yeah. I like using analogies because I feel like it helps people relate,
connect.
Back to it, because once you can feel a sense of pride behind it, and that you care, and that you want to get behind something, you're going to be more inclined to do something. Because if you don't care about it, it's like, whatever.
People don't know what they care about until they can see it and
until
learn
it affects
about
them.
it. Until it affects them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You talk about how knowledge and respect with the ocean, respect the reef, respect the ocean, respect the space. How does that lend itself to coexisting with sharks? Let's say you're a surfer in the water or a scuba diver, or you're fishing. How can we navigate coexisting with these species so we don't exterminate them from the ocean? Because at this rate, we know that the shark fin soup is a major threat to their survival. Mm-hmm. Ghost nets from fishing gear left behind. You mentioned that was a problem. Deep sea trawling, we're ruining their habitat flora. It sounds like a little grim, but when you talk about education and awareness and respect, it really brings this positive light to what we can do to coexist. Mm-hmm. Would you say that there are any other things we can do to move forward with making sure that these species are here to thrive, not just for us to appreciate, which hopefully one day we can all get to a point of appreciating that. Maybe that's utopic of me, but hearing you speak about it and how much you respect the ocean and the reefs, I feel like anyone else can get to that point. We just have to learn how to navigate coexistence with these top dogs. Mm-hmm. And is there any other ideas you might have about how to move forward with that so that we can protect them?
So yeah, I know you mentioned shark fin soup again. I know I mentioned it earlier, and for those listening out there, it is looked at as a delicacy, and it was said to have cultural and medicinal kind of like benefits from it. But really what it is that historically shark fin soup and shark finning, it was looked as a status kind of thing. So if you're meeting with businessmen and owners and whatnot, you'll have like, how like, filet mignon, or like it was looked as like we have shark fin soup. But in reality, the majority of that shark fin soup, super expensive, all that, it's chicken broth and cartilage. Like, because sharks are cartilaginous, meaning that they don't have any bones. So that fin, it doesn't have any taste, any value really. So they're doing these things because there's an idea of it, and it's also, there wasn't any kind of like medicinal benefits that was like backed by science, but it was also cultural. So that's where it has like a bit of a discrepancy, because who can you tell like culturally that's not important to somebody? That's not, you know what I'm saying? That's
an empathetic response of you. I feel like most people would just say, it doesn't matter if it's a cultural thing. They're killing sharks. We need to stop the shark fin soup trade.
But that's why it's been such like a controversial issue, because I understand that it's like, me personally, like, I don't think it's a good thing to do, because sharks without fins, they drown, and now we're killing sharks. But also, you have somebody on the other side that's like, oh, this is beneficial to me. Like, that's what their culture is. So it's like, it's a tough balance of that. I'm not condoning it whatsoever, but also from the human aspect of it, like writing somebody off for, saying
right.
that sucks too, even if you are right, which right. Like I said, I don't condone it, but that's what it is. So like, that's what it was viewed as, and it still is practiced to this day, unfortunately.
right? So
it sounds like a very social, ecological, complex issue, meaning that we have these cultural pressures from different backgrounds consuming something that is part of the ecological process in these social ecological systems that operate in a multi-scale feedback loop. And so it's really complicated trying to find a solution that satisfies those cultural traditions while also protecting natural resources. So it's finding that balance and making sure that it stays in balance, because right now it's definitely not.
Yeah, and I also will go along and say that there's communities that rely on fishing and
for their livelihood.
And sharks so happen to be a part of that. So it is finding that balance, because we also can't say, oh, you can't live your life. That's a very I can't find a term for it, but it's just like, it's like a dominating kind of connotation on it. Like who are we to tell them? Like, we can't do that.
It's almost like, is that kind of a colonizer move of us to tell them I believe so.
Let's just use that for now. But it's just basically like, we going in there, hey, that's not right. But that's how they eat. They don't have that luxury of going to Trader Joe's. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally how they live. So we do have to have that balance and that sustainability aspect of like, okay, let's not overcatch. Let's not like.
And that's where the fisheries management comes in. And that's another social piece to the social ecological system at play here, where it's really difficult to make sure that we are managing these vast waters that have no boundaries. Nature has no boundaries, but we push them and we put pressure on those systems from the social part as humans that have these cultural traditions, these different livelihoods, different governing systems, and how they clash with the environment is up to us to solve and make sure that we do find that sustainability piece, because right now, it seems like we're a little out of whack.
Yeah, but that's why it's best to be optimistic with it, because
and that's where the education comes in.
Yeah, and like another part of that, and kind of going back to the question too of how we can do it, but quickly political. That's why we need environmental policy, so we can, because we have scientists trying to understand politics and politicians trying to understand science. So we need somebody who can do both. You know what I'm saying? That's why environmental policy. That's why we need it, and that's why it's so important to understand both science and both legislation. But going back to how people can kind of just get more involved in like different ways in which they can kind of aid in this process is, of course, the education, but also getting out and involved, whether that is doing something as simple as a beach cleanup, or whether that is, if you are a part of the environmentally like ecotourism community of diving, snorkeling, spearfishing, educate yourself, be in the environment to understand it. A lot of people can talk from behind and never seen anything until you do it, kind of thing. So that's like another way, and do it with respect. Like, it's a variety of different ways. I can go on a tangent, but like, for the sake of it, education, respect, and experience. Like, you can go out and get the experience to do that, and if you don't have the means to, that's when you can start helping where you can. Like, not everybody has that privilege to just, right now, I can't just go out and go snorkeling. Guess what? We can educate ourselves about these practices.
There are other calls to action you can take without having to be in the field. Exactly. Just like you.
Yeah.
You're a great example of what it takes to become a passionate conservationist without having that exposure from a really early age. Exactly. You dove into scholastics and academia, and you have drive and passion, and that is something that we want to share at Planet People.
Yeah, for sure. And even doing things like this, or it's just like, is talking about it. Because if you don't talk about it, I mean, how can it ever be continued on? Like, we have to continue to have these discussions and have these conversations in order to really like press the issue. So yeah, that's just some of the few ways. I hope I answered that.
You did. That was a great answer.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick break to dive deeper, pun intended, into the topic of shark fin soup and how it threatens the survival of sharks around the world. The practice involves finning, where sharks are caught and their fins are sliced off while the rest of the body is discarded back into the ocean. These sharks, unable to swim without their fins, suffer a slow and painful death. This wasteful practice has led to a severe decline in shark populations globally. To help fight extinction, I want you to feel empowered. So here are some resources, organizations, and documentaries you can learn from to take actionable items regarding the damaging effects of the shark fin soup market. One of a few resources, including several nonprofits that you can learn from or get involved with, include the Shark Savers, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to shark conservation. They provide information, resources, and ways to get involved in protecting sharks. Shark Trust is a UK-based organization working to advance the worldwide conservation of sharks through science, education, influence, and action. And lastly, of course, there's the Bimini Bay Shark Lab, which Randy explains in depth in this episode about their mission and what they are doing to protect sharks. So if you're interested in volunteering abroad and working with sharks in the Bahamas, I highly recommend checking out this organization. Additionally, there are a couple of other organizations where you can do on-the-ground efforts in protecting marine life, including sharks. One of them being the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, which is a marine conservation organization that actively works to combat illegal fishing practices, including shark finning. Lastly, there's the Shark Water Extinction, which is a nonprofit organization founded by the late filmmaker and conservationist Rob Stewart. They raise awareness about the shark fin trade and promote protection resources and measures for sharks. Finally, I'll be sharing a couple documentaries for you to learn more about the practice. One of them being Shark Water, which was produced in 2006 by award-winning documentary producer Rob Stewart, who exposes the destructive shark finning industry and its impacts on shark populations and ecosystems. Lastly, Racing Extinction, produced in 2015, is a documentary that sheds light on various threats to biodiversity, including the shark fin trade, and highlights conservation efforts to protect endangered species. By sharing these resources and organizations, as well as recommending impactful documentaries, I hope that this short segment can empower you to take action and support conservation efforts, as well as make informed choices to protect sharks and marine ecosystems. Because remember, here at Planet People, it's our mission to be stewards of the planet and get involved in any way we can to help fight extinction, to make a difference locally and have global impact. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this segment. And let's get back to the rest of the episode with Randy. Thanks so much, Planet People.
We keep coming back to this education and respect piece, but I love that. That is the theme of this conversation, because there's really nothing more powerful than educating yourself about what you can do to make a difference. And that's why these conversations are so important.
And how you don't have to have a degree to do it.
You don't need
have to have a degree to do
thank
it.
you for saying that.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking like about, people listening out there. It's like, well, I don't know.
I'm not
you
a
can,
scientist.
Like, you
I
can
can't
be 6.
help. Like,
you can
no,
be
you
6.
can
You
help.
can be 85. Like, we are in a technological age. Now we don't have an excuse. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't have like devices or the means to, you also have the tangibles like books. We do have like that brick and mortar. You know what I'm saying? But like in this technological age, like YouTube University, for sure. How do you know if it's a credible source? You can go to Google Scholar. With so many thousands upon thousands of papers. It's thousands upon thousands of material in which you can do it. So it's not really an excuse. You don't have to have a collegiate degree. I got homies right now who did not go to school for any type of animal relation. They've always been interested. Hey bro, come out with me. Like, I got you. Now they on boards of zoological institutions. They are volunteering on beach cleanups. They are doing Habitat for Humanity. They're even doing river cleanups, because it's all connected. Like, they're doing their part.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
So it's just all like connected.
It's not about this whole grand, like, you don't have to have all of these credentials. It's cool. It helps. But it's like, it doesn't have to be that complex. It all can come back down to the simplest root. And it's just initiative. It's just taking that initiative to go out, seek answers, ask questions, take opportunities that you may not get paid for, ask certain questions even if you feel uncomfortable. Reach out to these groups. Reach out to 40 people if you have to. You're going to get talked to by at least 5. You know what I mean? Like, take that chance. Really go out and go forth, because there's no excuse.
There is no excuse.
Like, this is our planet. You know what I mean? Like, we have to do our due diligence as stewards and as cohabitants of the earth. So
You answered my next question without me even having to ask.
which was,
what advice do you have for our listeners who might want to get involved with protecting sharks or making a difference in coastal conservation? But like you said, everything is connected. Do the river cleanup, do the beach cleanup. Even if you can't go diving or be on Shark Week and go to Bimini Shark Lab, just like you,
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't get involved. And
Yeah.
so you really did answer that question
a
pretty
little
thoroughly.
bit, a little
already.
bit of,
but,
about
yeah.
that too. It's just what I want to say. I know I talked about just really reaching out, but yeah, just like leading with intention, leading really with intention, and there's no such thing as a perfect opportunity. Honestly, like it could feel that way, but that's just like you just aligned. You know what I mean? But like you have to take that initiative, and like I get a lot of times people who hit me up about like, how can I get involved? How can I get involved? How can I get involved? And it's like I get this this from like Gary Vee, and if you don't know who Gary Vee is, Google him. But they say like reach out to like follow 100 of your favorite like organizations, institutions, wherever you want to work. Follow 100 and reach out to DM them like, or email them or LinkedIn or whatever and say, hey, this is who I am. I love what you do. I would just love to know, how can I be involved? How can I be of assistance in continuing out this mission?
Networking.
And it's really just relationshiping.
Building relationships,
You know what
through
I'm saying?
through
and
a
doing
network.
it. Remember, I didn't say I'm looking for a job. How can I be of assistance? And that way, I'm guaranteeing you, out of that 100, you're going to hear back from 4, 5 at least, right? You can copy paste it. It don't have to be a hard thing. Copy paste it, switch up the word, and it's genuine regardless because it came from you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Hear back, and now you continue to do that work, but you have to have forward motion. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or like even if it comes down to like conducting your own experiments or different type of activities, whether that be like even from like a non-marine standpoint. Let's say we're talking about like plants and native plants, right? Swapping out hydrangeas for like your native floral species in your yard. I
Attract
guarantee
birds to your backyard.
birds, other pollinators like butterflies, insects, etc. Right? Just watch how beautiful that becomes. Or even doing other things within the home amongst your friends. Now it's like now the idea of science is fun. You know what I mean? We have this connotation that it's just like, oh, science, boring. But like, no, we can really make it interactive.
Interactive.
We
You
can
took
make
the
it
words right out of
energetic,
my
and we
mouth.
can make it enthusiastic.
And positive and fun.
Yeah, so getting creative, because you have to have an open mind, and it's okay to start small. Like you have to go through the process of it. Everything's a process. I don't know why you will want to skip the journey. You won't be able to appreciate it. Like if I had just grown up on the water all day, sharks was just like, oh, whatever. We look at sharks like squirrels, like, oh, yeah, or ocean life just like that. I wouldn't have had that appreciation for what I literally went from a toddler reading a book about sharks to taking pictures of them, swimming with them. Like it's so full circle, and it's a very emotional thing because it's just like,
It is an emotional
I can't take
thing.
that for granted, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't did everything in which I did and go through every emotion and not try to bottle it or skip it. Like go through every emotion, all of the downfalls. There's no such thing as losses for me.
Try the
They're
different
just
paths.
lessons. It's just lessons and different paths, and know that it is okay to deviate a bit. It's okay to even have setbacks as long as the motion is forward, as long as you keep continuing to push on and you're not like backpedaling into something that's adverse to your mission. If you don't even know what it is, that's okay. Because now you can take that time, audit yourself a little bit, take that time, press pause. It's okay. We're here for it. You know what I mean? So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah. That's my advice to the folks out there.
That is great advice. And I think you mentioning just the small steps you can take and that you don't have to be a scientist to care and make a difference. And it can be fun. It can be creative, interactive, different, as long as you have an open mind and you have the initiative. You talk about initiative a lot, and that's so valuable in this conversation because all it takes is an idea that you have where you want to make a difference and you have this passion and you don't know what to do with it sometimes, right? I know sometimes I feel that way still. But really, it's just taking that first step and knowing that you really don't have to have those credentials. And anybody can be a conservationist. Anybody can be a steward. And here at Planet People, we strengthen stewardship stories for anybody on the ground who is making a difference. I know in the past I've interviewed another conservation manager and you're a conservation biologist, but really all of my listeners who are listening right now are stewards for just caring. And that's something that I hope people can take away from this conversation, that all it takes is a conversation and a discussion. And if you care and you want to do something about it, then we want to help you do that here at Planet People and give you that call to action. And thank you for giving this advice and providing different avenues for ways that people can get involved. Like you said, the beach cleanups, river cleanups, all that good stuff. Everything is connected. And just taking that first step is so important.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking that first step and
Appreciate
for fighting
Thank
extinction with sharks and with desert tortoises. That's a whole nother story. We'll have to save for a different podcast.
We'll part to it.
We'll part to it.
We'll come back around to it.
As we wrap up our conversation, we would all love to know, what are the most rewarding aspects for you in being a planet person and taking action to fight extinction?
Really just being present in real time. Enjoying every moment. I feel like a lot of times, especially with the things that I do, like you said, I wear many hats. I'm like a Swiss Army knife, honestly. And it's just like,
an even better analogy. Another great one.
You can kind of get caught up in just like, the ins and outs, the day to day, because it becomes your norm. But I feel like grounding yourself and also reminding yourself that you are in this moment. I know a lot of these times I have to do it when I do photography and videos, where it's just like, even if I have my camera with me, I won't shoot it. You know what I mean? Like, I won't clip it up. I'll sit there and just mental memory, you know what I mean? Mental photos and just
Kodak moment.
Yeah, just with myself though, and just be present in that time and appreciative and reflective. It sounds like a lot to do in that moment, but it all happens within like 15 seconds. Honestly, it's just like, man, like, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm blessed and fortunate to do day in and day out. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for that time. So really, that's kind of like some of the most rewarding stuff, is just being able to be present in real time, and then also having conversations like this and inspiring others. I mean, I still have a lot of people who hit me up, whether that be for them seeing the things in which I do. Anytime I go down to the beach and like people are like, "What are you doing? Like, you're going under the water?" Like, yeah. And it's like, I have like this educational moment, or just even people who have seen the show and like reach out and tell me how I've been so inspiring for them, and that I kind of help catalyze their interest. It's just a beautiful thing. And that's really all I want to do. I just want to be of service. I want to be a servant, you know what I mean? And use my talents and skills to assist others unselfishly. And if I can do that day in and day out, I have no complaints. I already woke up today. So now if I can help somebody else, and especially help them get to wherever they want and need to go, I'm cool. I'm solid. So, yeah.
Well, you inspire me to take action, Randy.
Appreciate you, family.
And I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. This has been an amazing episode, and
Thank you.
I think I'm definitely inspired by this conversation. I know I am. And you have such a deep and compassionate soul that is shown through this conversation and shown through your work to fight extinction, and your passion speaks volume.
Appreciate that.
So for the final question, I like to wrap up with a favorite quote. What is your favorite quote that lends itself to something conservation related that has inspired you and resonates with you in your everyday work?
One that sticks out to me is by Henry David Thoreau. And he says, "Wilderness is the preservation of the world." And that sticks out to me because we're all wild. You know what I mean? Like, the world is like Mother Earth is always gonna snap back. You know what I mean? no matter how much we manipulate, no matter how much we could disrupt or interfere with, like, Mother Nature is always going to be herself. And she's very resilient. And I feel like as if we need to not only just preserve, like Thoreau says, but conserve, protect, sustain, and make it to a point where we have our human population feel as if this is their home and something to take care of and not take it for granted, because ultimately we're in a natural space. We're organisms, we're mammals. I feel like humans forget that. Like, we're a part of this animal kingdom, and with our abilities, it's our job to protect it. So
Thank you. We are not separate from nature.
nope.
We are part of it.
Yep.
And that quote summarizes it perfectly.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, for being on the show.
No
You are
problem.
an A+ Planet person, and we loved having you on.
Yay.
And I know that, yeah, this conversation will go a long way for our listeners. You continue to inspire the next generation, and the work that you do on the ground every day to fight extinction with whatever species you're studying is remarkable. So
Appreciate it.
thank you for all you do for the planet and
Thanks.
for being here today.
I say thanks for having me, and we definitely have to have a part 2 for, like, the
The
terrestrial.
desert.
If I say, yeah, the desert. If I say, people are like, what, the desert? I'm like, yeah, stick around for part 2, guys.
Stick around.
You'll hear about all of our desert tales. I think we should call it desert tales.
I like that.
Yeah, desert tales.
We have some crazy stories to
We
share
have
about that.
some stories. So
Yes, we'll save that for part
I'm about to
2
say,
for next
check that
time.
for part 2. I'm gonna add it in here. Check it out for part 2, desert tales. Yep. So now we know.
So, Randy, I know you have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
You're a very busy conservationist, fighting extinction with desert tortoises, sharks, you name it. You're very busy. How can we plug your information for our listeners to learn more about what you're doing with Adventures of 5K? We haven't
Yeah.
even
That's
touched on that.
Another time. It's okay. But you can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and I also have a website that's up and coming. But at the Adventures of 5K, TheAdventureentures 5K. So all lowercase, the Adventures of 5K, where I am kind of just showcasing the outward expression of inner adventures through travel, adventure, outreach, fitness, and knowledge, and wildlife education, specializing in that, and just showcasing life at the edge of your comfort zone, really. So if you want to go out, check some of the photos in which I do, or some of the educational information that I provide, you can go out there. You can catch me in on LinkedIn at Randolph Thomas. That's my government name. So catch me out there. And for the moment, I'll be doing work with desert tortoises. Had to bounce back and save our little guys. So and we can talk about that in Desert Tales. But you can also visit www.theadventuresof5k.com to look at portfolios. I'm going to be putting up links to order prints of your favorite photos of mine, and then soon to come offer your services as well. I'm definitely going to do some guided tours when it comes to diving. I'm going to do some personal photography. So if you want to go out and be a model, whether that be in the mountains or under the sea, I can be your guy. So yes, just stay tuned for all the updates, and I'm revamping YouTube channel. I feel like I said that so many times, but for real, just getting back into it, and just producing, and being a planet person. I'm part of Planet People. So go out to the Adventures of 5K, and then go out to theadventuresof5k.com, and you can DM me, you can email me. You can get all that information on either the website or Instagram. And
Great.
yeah, let's do work. Stay up, take off, let's race. Adventures of 5K. Woo.
Awesome. We'll definitely be plugging all of that information in the show notes so that people can easily access everything about the Adventures of 5K and what's going on in Randy's life.
Yee.
Thanks for sharing all that information, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you on the part 2, Desert Tales.
Part 2, Desert Tales.
Stay
Signing
tuned,
out.
everybody.
See ya.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Planet People. We are thrilled to have you as part of our community of wildlifers who care about protecting the planet for future generations to enjoy. We hope that by listening to this podcast, you will be inspired to connect with nature and become a steward of the planet by getting involved and taking action with your local community conservation organization. Until next time, stay positive, Planet People. Thank you to my team here at Planet People. This episode was produced by Natalie Jane Sybil, Coral Carson, and Hugh Carr. Edited by Coral Carson. Theme song by Hugh Carr under the artist name Flama. Thank you, team.
Okay.
All right. That was a peacock.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We good, Core?
Yeah, we go.
Okay. Okay. I don't know why I'm so nervous all of a sudden.
Go ahead. You good.
All right. Okay. I just I don't know why I'm
You're
nervous.
so silly.
I know, it's just silly. This is why we need a bottle of champagne. Just drink a little.
A little courage.
Yeah, a little
liquid
courage.
courage.
A little liquid courage.
But no, you got it.
All right.